Good to have you here, 3 and Out on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, a lot to get to here on the show. We'll have our picks sure to go wrong coming up in the final hour of the program. Also, we'll look ahead to this Braves weekend that we now are awaiting. Lawton Swan will talk some Clemson football with us. Home team Brandon Leak will join us here in hour number 1, and we will talk about this Braves series as well as Dave Holcomb, SouthernPigskin.com. We'll look at the weekend upcoming in the ACC. But the Braves, well, they just got to hand it to them last night, BJ and Ben. 11-2, Max Fried, not good for basically the entirety of that ball game. And now it comes back to Atlanta for sure for at least one, maybe two, if the Braves can't win it tomorrow afternoon, evening, whatever the case may be, depending on what the Red Sox and Astros do tonight.
Yeah, we talked about our collective optimism yesterday on the show, and you had a great finish to the game in Game 4. You had 4 runs in the 9th inning. You were entering a Game 5 where LA, albeit at home, and they're very difficult to beat in their home stadium, LA was going to go with a bullpen game. The Braves had Max Fried. You felt like the momentum was on Atlanta's side, and that was a disappointing result, especially after the home run from Freeman early. I was watching the start of the game with my dad. I looked over and said, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. You had the early lead on the road. You felt like the fact that LA already in their bullpen had to go to their bullpen right away, that was going to be a ripple effect that was going to cause the Dodgers a lot of problems. And the Braves got up 2-0, and then LA scored the next 11 runs of the game. So credit the Dodgers for their resiliency. That's what championship teams do. And it was never going to be easy. And I think you can look at this now, Ben, Kevin, through kind of 2 different perspectives. Everybody's disappointed you didn't close it out last night. Everybody's apprehensive about the future. Look, you were up 3-1 last year, and you weren't able to close out LA. Being honest, we're all apprehensive about it. But if you would have said at the beginning of the series, entering Game 6, Atlanta's going to have the series lead, they're going to be up 3-2, and they're going to have a home game on Saturday to try to clinch it, every single one of us would have taken that and felt good about it. So Atlanta is still in the driver's seat. You got to find a way to bounce back. Ian Anderson's been really big for the most part in his career in the postseason. You're going up against Scherzer, but I think you got to turn the page. You got to move on. Don't worry about Game 5. Focus on Game 6 and get it done in Atlanta Saturday.
We knew this Dodgers team was not going to go quiet into the night, right? We knew that Kevin and BJ, this team was going to come out resilient, very, very aggressive, and they were going to try to, lay it on Atlanta early. I'm not surprised necessarily at the fact that the Dodgers found a way to get a big win. I am a little surprised at how many runs. I know you're always talking about wasting runs. 11-2 is a lot of runs, but I heard what Freddie Freeman said about every time the Braves, find themselves in this position, they get to talking about the past, right? Guys were saying this happened this time last year. And he goes, yeah, I understand it, but we're gonna have to go out there and prove that we can get over this hump. Those last 6 hours or this next game is gonna be crucial. Because if you are the Braves, whether you was on the team last year or you got here after the trade deadline, you inherited these good and bad trades. So I just think that for me, the Braves understand, what's at stake. And it's easy for us to say, man, you're back at Truist. I get this thing. Look, this Dodgers team has done what they're trying to do a year ago. When hoping it's not deja vu, as you can see, I'm still repping. I am not switching hat colors because they lost. I'm not getting into all that. But Kevin and BJ, for me, this is what sports is about. It's, hey man, what made you guys a World Series caliber team? We finally got over the hump. Finally beat the Dodgers because, like I said, I mean, the Dodgers are the best team in the National League. That doesn't mean the Braves can't go out there and get it done. They seem to wake up when they get down 3-1. I don't know how many teams, need to be down two games or elimination to wake up, but I think this Braves team is going to be fine. You lost Game 5. It happens. It happened last year, but I don't think this is your Braves from 2020, and I like their shots. I give them a good a shot as any come Game 6 on Saturday.
And again, I think you should feel confident, quite frankly, BJ and Ben. I mean, again, this is not like this is a Braves team that hasn't won anything. They've won 17 out of 19 earlier this season. They've come back from 5 games down in the division. Go out there and trust yourself. And again, it's not like you are going into Game 6 going, well, we got Jesse Chavez, and we'll try to see if we can find somebody else to pitch. No, you got Ian Anderson. You have Charlie Morton as your 2 guys coming up who've been very good for you. And look, was Ian Anderson great last time? No. Doesn't that lead you to believe that maybe he'd be a little bit more on it in the second go round? Yes, I think it would. I think we're setting up for a big time pitchers matchup. Do the Braves play well at Truist? Yes, they do. Is that home field a huge advantage for the Braves? Yes, it is. Again, I'm looking at it from a standpoint of last year. Dodgers came back from 3-1 in an antiseptic environment in outside of Dallas at the new Rangers ballpark, where you had hardly any fans that were there. And look at how much of a difference it made when the Dodger fans got into it. Big time difference. So look, I'm still positive. I'm not like, again, I don't want to rehash the ain't no curses thing, but there's not. Look, you played awful last night. That happens. You gave up 17 hits. There's nothing curse worthy to be mentioned about that. You played awful. And as has been said, it's not like the Dodgers, who are defending champs, who won the second most games in the National League, are just going to lay down. That's not what that's not what they do. So they came back, they fought, they had a good game, and now you've got to go give it to them again here in Game 6. And I think the Braves should be focused and ready to give a better effort coming up here on Saturday, whether it be 5 or 8 o'clock, depending on, again, what happens with the Astros and the Red Sox tonight.
And I know these games never go how we think, right? I mean, I was convinced that yesterday was going to be a game where Max Fried controlled the evening, controlled the night. The Braves scored a lot of runs, and that didn't happen. When you look at it on paper, it feels like Ian Anderson versus Max Scherzer will be a 3-2 game, and we'll see how the bullpens come into play. But, I mean, what does your gut tell you about Saturday, guys? I mean, do you think we are looking at a low-scoring game given the pitchers that are on the mound? Or the way this series has gone with home runs coming from all sides, I mean, you think we're more likely this weekend to see 7-6 or 8-5 or something like that?
I expect it to be a back and forth. I really, really do. I expect this Dodgers and Braves team to kind of being a back and forth affair. And I don't know what it is about these late innings with this Braves team. I mean, both them and the Dodgers find a way to get it done late, but I think it's going to come down to this Braves lineup. I think they're going to mash. I really, really think that sometimes, if you just got here, if you Rosario and those guys, you just got here, you saying to yourself, dude, you guys up 3-1 last year. I mean, you watch it from the outside in, you saying, how did it happen? As you mentioned, Kevin, the Dodgers show you why they are who they are. I mean, think about it. They're doing this, no Clayton Kershaw, and they're still just as good of a team. But if you are the Braves, you are saying to yourself, look, man, we got to prove it to ourselves, man. We got to silence the noise, forget the dollars. You're going to have that. But it's not how many fights you had, people. It's who you fought. And you're not going to get a better opponent than this Dodgers team. BJ, I expect it to be a back and forth affair, but I do think that home field advantage, it definitely helped them Dodgers. I see it helping this Braves team. You get to be comfortable, you get to be loose, and you don't want to go to Avante Game 7. Don't leave it a chance to a one-game win-all series. Go ahead and try to handle business on Saturday night.
Yeah, anything can happen in a one-game scenario, and I think baseball is so interesting and so antithetical, BJ, to how we view series. I mean, baseball is the only one that really plays series on the regular, but when you look at sports in general, NBA goes to the playoffs, every single game, the narrative changes. Oh man, it's just the matchups going one way. There's no way to stop player X, Y, Z, whatever it's going. Baseball, it's literally like, okay, we lost it. Like the mindset of baseball is, okay, we lost. We'll go play again tomorrow. That's kind of the mindset of baseball. I know it gets amped up a little bit when you're in the postseason, but I think in terms of losses, baseball shakes the losses off the easiest because they lose so many games. Even the Giants won 106 games, which means what? They lost 50. They lost 50 times. It didn't go their way. And they just had to pick it up, move on. The Braves, obviously, with 88 wins, lost a whole lot more than that. So I think a number of times when you talk about losses hurting and things of that nature, it's so antithetical to the way baseball is played, where one loss, especially in a series, teams are looking at it like, okay, it's a loss. We can still go get him tomorrow. It starts anew with tomorrow's starting pitching. And I think that's what the Braves have to be looking at, is our lineup is still very, very good. Jorge Soler should be back, maybe in a little bit better role coming up on Saturday. And look, you have Ian Anderson and Charlie Morton, 2 cracks to get this thing done. That's not bad. That is, you could do a whole lot worse if you're the Braves trying to go out there and clinch a series than those 2 guys. And they are 2 guys that have pitched very well for you. So I think you enter it at home with some confidence to go out there and try to get this thing done. And your offense, you were still up early, jumping on the pitchers. And then I think once they kind of changed, your approach changed. And I saw that last night. They bring in Brusdar Gratterall, comes in throwing 103 miles an hour. What happens? First two pitches, swing, out, and you're going, wait a minute. What happened to patience? What happened to making this bullpen work? And you're bailing guys out after one pitch. I think the approach changed, the kind of the mindset changed, and you got to reset and go after it tomorrow in Game 6.
I know this has been asked a lot, with a Game 6. If you're Brian Snitker, do you manage it like it's a Game 7? And I don't know what scenarios acutely could arise that would kind of prompt you to do that. I can't imagine there would be a set of circumstances where you would turn to Charlie Morton and bring him in Game 6. Maybe if Tyler Matzik had pitched yesterday, maybe you'd be more hesitant to go to him tomorrow. I don't know. When you hear people say, do you manage it like it's a Game 7? What does that mean? Is there anything tangible there that Brian Snitker does differently? Because I do think you look at this game with a sense of urgency. I do think you treat it like it's a deciding game, but I don't know in terms of decisions made how that really factors in.
Yeah, I think it affects the Dodgers more than it does the Braves, quite honestly, because the Dodgers have to put the moves in place as if there is no tomorrow, because there might not be. The Braves still have something to fall back on. But I do think with the day off, it kind of resets everything from a bullpen standpoint. At this time of year, you get a day off, everybody should be ready to go and give you 2-3 outs if that's what it takes, out of that bullpen. So I think that's kind of a reset. I do think if you're Brian Snitker, you have that Game 7 to fall back on. And that's what I think was hurtful about yesterday. Not so much that you lost, is that you didn't really force the hand of the Dodgers to try to do some things they didn't want to do. Overuse some guys, push guys deeper in pitch counts to push them to Game 6, where maybe you say, man, this guy's thrown a lot in the last 3-4 ball games. Maybe we don't use him tonight. And you didn't really do that. You kind of bailed them out and let them kind of take the game over and manage it and play it the way they wanted to, because it was, out of hand. But I do something to it. And I'll ask you guys both before we have to step aside home team Brandon League. If you're going to lose, especially in baseball, where runs a lot of times are at a premium, would you rather get beat 11-2 or 4-2 and then have to go to Game 6?
See, now you're buying it. Now you're buying the numbers. I like it.
I'm just saying it more in just the way baseball is played. You don't often go and say, we just got 17 hits. That is an outlier for the way baseball is played. Maybe you have a 7-8 hit night. You don't get 17 even in the regular season in ball games like that.
I'd rather lose 11-2 because there are only so many runs that are going to be scored. And the Dodgers, I'm not saying that it's not the right phraseology to say they wasted the runs, but 3-2, 11-2, it counts the same. And it's hard to follow up a performance like they just had with another one of that magnitude.
I would rather lose 11-2 because BJ, you kind of winning me over, with his good versus best, greatest, and all these different things. But 11-2 is still one. But I think Kevin said it the right way. When you are the Braves, if you lose games, it's kind of like being a defensive back getting beat deep. All right, I got beat deep. All right, fine, I got to go back out there. But I do think that the Braves didn't do in game 5 what they're going to have to do in Game 6. They got to apply pressure. They applied pressure in Game 4. You got to apply pressure, because when you apply pressure on the Dodgers, it forces their hand, Kevin, as you mentioned. Hopefully that happens in Game 6, because good Lord, man, we don't want you don't want to make it a Game 7 to it's an end all be all type scenario.
Anything can happen in one game in baseball. And I mean, even if you're saying, oh, they don't even have their best pitcher, anything can happen when you just look at one game micro in baseball. We'll come back. Home team Brandon Lee going to join us. We'll talk about those Braves getting ready for Game 6 when we return. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here with you on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. We'll chat with Dave Holcomb, southernpigskin.com, coming up in about 15 minutes. Efforting home team Brandon Leak to join us here on the program as, again, we talk Braves back at home field advantage for the Braves, and they've been very good at home here, BJ and Ben. I know Dodger Stadium has been kind of a magical mystery place sometime for the Braves to try to play well. Hasn't been the case at the Truist Park. They've played really, really well there during their short time there.
And I think you think about home field advantage and kind of where the value lies, right? At the professional level in a sport like baseball, I think it's comfortability. And I think for whatever reason, Max Fried, maybe it was something wasn't right physically, but he didn't look comfortable like he normally does last night. And I think for Ian Anderson, that's where you value home field advantage, is you have a pitcher that's still very young. You're in a game with massive implications, and you're going to be pitching in a place where not only are your home fans there, but the dimensions, the mound, it's where you've spent a good majority of your career. So I think more so than maybe at the plate or, just giving the overall team a boost, I think if I'm the starting pitcher, especially if I'm a young starter like Ian Anderson, there's a difference in starting on the road in LA in front of 50,000 in a place where maybe you've pitched a couple of times versus pitching at Truist where you know everything about, your routine in the pregame, everything about the field, the sight lines, everything. I think that's where the advantage lies in home field advantage in a baseball playoff game, is the level of comfortability for the starting pitcher, especially if that starting pitcher is a relatively young player like Ian Anderson.
And when you're at home, you are comfortable. When you're at home, like you said, understanding the surroundings, but it's the magnitude of this moment. I mean, the thing about the Braves fan base, they're going to always say, yeah, we wish we would have got it done in LA, but hey, man, you got to deal with them Dodgers at home.
We have located home team Brandon Leak, co-host of the home team in Hamilton show there in Atlanta on 680 The Fan. Home team, welcome to the show. How are you?
Ready to go, guys. Hoping that Atlanta gets what they're looking for this weekend.
Oh, certainly. We're all hoping that way. And again, I know fans like to play into the curse thing. I personally don't necessarily believe in it, but you look at what happened last night. How did the Braves shake that off? Is it just, look, bad in multiple phases of that game, and you just move forward and shake it off? If it's baseball, you lose some like that sometimes and go to game 6.
Well, yeah, you shake that off. I mean, you're in the series. You're in a series with the defending world champions. 5 games through, and the series has personality. You have 3 games where teams won in their final at bats, and then you have the last 2 games where both teams were on the good end and the bad end of blowouts. Braves win 9-2, and then the Dodgers last night 11-2. So you're in a series, and really, as a Brave fan, you should, even though it doesn't feel like it after you give up 17 hits and 11 runs, that you are in the position you want to be. When you left Atlanta, you wanted to win 1 game in Los Angeles and come back to Atlanta up 3-2. You won 1 game in Los Angeles, and you come back to Atlanta up 3-2. So you're exactly where you wanted to be outside of getting the series over when you left Atlanta. And so now it comes back to whether or not the things that got the Braves to where they are now can get them over the hump, because you're going to get the very best that the Los Angeles Dodgers have to give.
And Scherzer goes tomorrow for the Dodgers. Ian Anderson has had some really big starts already, including in the postseason in his young career. What are you expecting to see out of Ian Anderson against Scherzer in a game this big? And what's going to be the biggest key for him to have one of those great starts?
I think striking guys out. His first start in the series, he didn't make it past 3 innings. And when he's been very successful, he's had some strikeouts early, kept his pitch count low, and gotten strikeouts early in games. That didn't happen, and he had to get yanked. Now, the game that he got yanked earlier in the series, the Braves ended up winning in their final at bat, and the bullpen did a very good job. But I think for him, if he can get to 5 innings, he can strike guys out and keep his pitch count low, and don't turn this into a situation where Brian Snitker has to use 7 pitchers just to clean it up to see where his pitching can be. I think that's the best thing he can do for himself and for his team.
When the Hawks had the best record in the East, not too many years removed, they had to deal with them Cavs and LeBron. When it comes to this Braves team. I mean, 4 years with Snit and Alex Anthopoulos. 4 years. I mean, they had to deal with these pesky Dodgers. What is it gonna be like for this Braves team, especially Freddie Freeman, when they do hopefully get over the hump on Saturday night and they finally, exercise some demons?
Yeah, I think it is a thing, and outside of the teams in Atlanta, you can go back through the annals of history and look at other franchises. The Bulls or the Pistons in the 80s couldn't get past the Celtics, and then the Bulls couldn't get past the Pistons. Then they finally did. And so I think it's one of those things. I think more importantly, though, the Braves are at the doorstep, and you've been up 3-1 now 2 years in a row. You don't have Ronald Acuna Jr. or Marcell Ozuna this year, but really this is a different Braves team after the trades were made by Alex Anthopoulos. And the bottom line is the Braves do have enough to win. You could argue last year that the Braves weren't as good of a team. I know that sounds crazy, having Ronald Acuna Jr. On the team last year, not this year. But you could argue this year, last year, the Dodgers did have the better team, and the Braves maybe did not. Now, when you look at what happened to Joe Kelly last night, what happened to Justin Turner, they're losing the Dodgers guys along the way. They already don't have Trevor Bauer. They already don't have Clayton Kershaw. They already don't have Max Muncy. So, the Braves have demonstrated they have enough to be as good as the Dodgers this year. They just have to prove it in 27 outs coming up this weekend with 2 games to win 1 if they want to go to the World Series.
And again, you look at this Braves team coming into the weekend and home team. I know I can't explain it. I guess I'll ask you, why are Atlanta fans the way they are when it comes to losing a game? And again, I don't know if you are a big Atlanta's a cursed town guy or not. I just simply think you haven't performed well in crunch time and finished games off when you've had the chance. But why are they feeling this way about a team they should feel really confident about?
Well, I don't use the term curse. I don't believe in a curse. But there is a thing, and it is something, because you're right. To a point, you look at this team, all right, we lost a game last night, but you got one in L.A. that you need up 3-2. However, you have been up 3-1. The Braves have, over the annals of their history, been up 3-1 in 5 different series, different types of series, and they have not come away with wins. We know of a very famous football game where the team that is here in Atlanta was up and they did not win. There was a very good team with Dominique Wilkins in the 80s that was up 3-2 against Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics, and they did not win. So I'm not saying it's a curse, because I really don't believe in that. I think at the end of the day, the Braves and teams in Atlanta haven't been cursed. They have been outcoached, they have been out-executed, and they have been outplayed at certain critical moments. And if the Braves want to start a new chapter with a bunch of new fans and new young fans, and they want to turn a page and etch something in stone that's a little bit different, win one of these 2 games over the weekend at home with one of the most raucous crowds in all of sports, or else they're going to be added to the list of other occurrences where there has been a thing.
And you mentioned it there. There have been a lot of big games, of course, in Atlanta over the years. What's the atmosphere going to be like tomorrow with the Dodgers in town and a spot in the World Series, at least for the Braves, on the line?
Oh, it probably will register on somebody's Richter scale. It's going to be a madhouse inside of Truist Park and, outside the surrounding parts of the Battery, Atlanta. Here, where the ballpark is placed, they have a big jumbo screen right outside of the gates where people convene, a little grassy area, and everybody in the Battery, all the sports bars and all the places where you can watch, everybody's going to be glued that can't get into the building. So it will be a home field advantage, whatever that means in baseball, or how that affects a batter with 2 strikes, or how that affects a pitcher with 3 balls. Those things will be played out, and we'll talk about them. But it won't be because of a lack of energy from the Atlanta Braves fans. And hopefully they can just get off to a good start, have some good pitching, and have a good finish to beat one of the best teams in all of baseball.
If, come Saturday night, Braves finally get over the hump and get back to the World Series, regardless of what happens in the World Series, we don't have to hear no more of this 28-3 or the last going up against Denver and Eugene Robinson or whatever. Before they played them, all these, quote, the Georgia curse. Is it real, or is it just something that Georgia fans just have grown to know and love about these pro sports teams?
There have been too many things have not gone the way of Atlanta sports teams and Atlanta sports fans. How about have a thing that goes the way of the Braves, the fans in the city one time, which may lead to a cavalcade of other good things happening for the city. If they don't win, you still were up 3-1. You still had the final two games at home, and you still had Ian Anderson and Charlie Morton going the last two games. You have to find a way to adapt to the situation, overcome the adversity, and find a way to get to the World Series in 2021.
Home team Brandon Leak joining us here. And home team, you look at this Braves team with Eddie Rosario, Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler, even though he's just now eligible to come back, has been big for the Braves down the stretch in the postseason. It seems like the moves Alex Anthopoulos made, these are the guys that have been contributing on top of, Freddie Freeman, Austin Riley coming down the stretch. Who do you think plays the hero, if you will, for Atlanta on Saturday if they come out on top?
Well, three guys I'm looking to do some damage. Freddie Freeman, Eddie Rosario, because he's been hot for the majority of the city, and Austin Riley. He's had a bit of a dip in his production, but you could argue he should get some MVP votes. What does that mean? Maybe sixth or seventh. But the way that he performed all year long, the way he performed against the Milwaukee Brewers, he is a guy, I think, if he comes up with one or two big hits, a big home run, something that gets a rally going or keeps one going, I think those three guys, along with what happens in the back end of the bullpen, those three guys will be the guys I'm going to have on profile to lead the charge of the Braves getting over the hump and beating the Dodgers.
All right, home team, I got to ask you this before we let you go. It's the seventh, eighth, ninth inning. Braves have a lead. Who are you most comfortable with pitching on the mound for the Braves? Who are you most nervous about pitching for the Atlanta Braves?
I'm not really nervous about the back end of the bullpen. I think you just stick with what works. You go with Minter, you go with Matzek, you go with Jackson, you go with Will Smith. And, Will Smith is a roller coaster ride, that's for sure. But he's still, at the end of the day, one of the best closers when you look at his record in baseball. And, I'm as funny as it sounds, that's not the part that concerns me. I really think the Braves pitching in the back end of the bullpen can be good enough. I'm just my concern will be if there will be a power outage with the offense or some rally that doesn't get the base hit or the home run or the double that makes the difference, and there are a bunch of Braves standing with runners in scoring position. But if I have to say who worries me the most, I would probably have to say I can't say. I'm with Minter, Matzek, Jackson, or Smith. I don't have a problem with anybody in the back end, and I'm just going to stick to that.
Home team Brandon Leak, our guest here on 3 and Out. Home team, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Anytime, guys.
Appreciate it. Home team Brandon Leak joining us here on 3 and Out. And again, you should feel confident about those guys and their ability to go out and get the job done. We'll come back. We're talking some college football. Dave Holcomb, SouthernPigskin.com, joins us when we return here on 3 and Out. Coach Spurrier just always says my name with such gusto. And Kevin. Oh, we love Coach Spurrier. I appreciate him doing that. But again, we've got a lot of football to get to here this weekend. And joining us from southernpigskin.com, covers the ACC, Dave Holcomb, joins us here on 3 and Out. Dave, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Hey, we're doing fantastic. You look at a game here in this state, Georgia, or going from this state, Georgia Tech and Virginia up in Charlottesville, a place where the Yellow Jackets traditionally don't play very well. Is this one where you look at Jeff Collins, a chance to make a little bit of a statement going on the road and beating a Virginia team who's maybe a little bit better than preseason we thought they might be?
Yeah, it would be a huge win if they could get it done. I think if they're going to win, they're going to have to score, because Brandon Armstrong is having a terrific season for Virginia behind center, leading the nation in passing yards, and he's going to get his yards. So if Georgia Tech's going to keep up, they're going to have to get a big performance from their offense and quarterback Jeff Sims.
How do you evaluate, Dave, what the Yellow Jackets have done this season in that, you beat North Carolina, had a big multi-score win over the Tar Heels in Atlanta. You go back to the start of the year, you lost the game late to Northern Illinois. How do you evaluate kind of the overall direction of where Georgia Tech is?
I think they're trending in the right direction. Weird things happen in week one. Probably more so in professional football, but still in college, it's the first week of the season. I'm willing to, a program like Georgia Tech that's building. I'm willing to overlook a late loss like that to Northern Illinois in week one. And since then, they play really good football, almost beating Clemson. Clemson's not what they were last year or in years past, but still played that team tough on the road, and their only other loss is to a really good Pitt team. So, Georgia Tech's, I think, playing well. I think they're having a good season.
And speaking of that Pitt team, I mean, you think about how well they've played this year, playing Clemson this weekend. How big of a statement could it be for Pitt to get a big win against Clemson, even if Clemson, as you mentioned, down this year?
Oh, I think it would be a huge win. Pitt has beaten Clemson before, but it still would be an historic win for Pat Narduzzi, for the Pitt program. This is a team that it's still kind of weird to say that they're playoff conversation, but they are, especially if they win this game, because they become the favorite in the ACC if they win this game. I think honestly they already are entering this game. And the question kind of becomes, how does Pitt handle being the favorite rather than the spoiler, where they've done well being the spoiler in years past, being Clemson. They beat Miami number 2 overall in 2017. How does Pitt handle being a favorite, and how do they handle the pressure of expecting to win their division or the ACC? But to answer your question, yeah, I think this is a huge opportunity for Pitt at home against a Clemson team that's not a juggernaut. A huge statement win for them.
And Pitt might rue that loss to Western Michigan, but you look at Kenny Pickett, Dave, and some people saying quietly in a potential Heisman race, nearly 2,000 yards passing already, 21 touchdowns to just 1 interception. Is he quietly a guy that nobody's talking about that might be putting up Heisman-worthy numbers, especially if Pitt can go and play in the ACC championship game at 11-1?
Absolutely. I see him more than probably the other quiet or favorite players in the Heisman race, so maybe I'm a little biased, but I really like Kenny Pickett. I love what he's doing, in terms of his efficiency, a really high completion percentage, second in the ACC, leads the ACC in yards per attempt, and that touchdown to interception ratio you mentioned is just fantastic, best in the country. That with the passing yards, he doesn't have as many passing yards as Armstrong, but to throw in, almost as many passing yards as Armstrong and all of those efficient stats and not turning the ball over, he's just having a terrific season, and somebody that I think absolutely deserves to be mentioned in the Heisman race.
Dave, not a lot of people talking about Wake Forest, and they're 6-0. They're in the top 15. Have a tough game this weekend at Army, but Wake Forest. Yeah. How do you evaluate what they've done and maybe what they could do the rest of the year?
I think offensively they're a very dangerous team. They have been very good offensively the last few years, and I just think their goal, Dave Clawson, I remember he talked about it in the summer. He wanted to be more efficient. Their red zone efficiency isn't quite as stellar as it was last year, but they're better on third down. They're fourth in the ACC in third down conversion percentage. Last year they were ninth. So they're putting up points and yards as they always have, but that efficiency, moving the chains on third down, I think adds another element and makes their overall team better because it keeps their defense off the field. And that's, I think, the question of how far will this team go. It is, well, how much can the defense improve down the stretch, because they've been average to below average in the ACC in terms of yards allowed and points allowed. So maybe that isn't a problem, even though I agree with you. It's a tough road game against Army. Maybe that's the defense isn't exposed against Army, or it's not exposed against Duke, but how does it handle North Carolina on the road and number 18 NC State in November? And that's really where those two games are really going to determine Wake Forest's season.
De'Aaron King out for the season again for the Miami Hurricanes. Manny Diaz got to, it's going to be an uphill battle for him to even try to save face for the rest of the year. But how hot is this seed? And do you think Manny Diaz survives? And is he back in 2022?
I don't know. I think he should be, but I was reading about it this week in terms of the quotes coming from the athletic department in Miami, and his seat sounds very, very warm, very hot. And they've got two ranked teams coming up, NC State, and then a road game at Pitt. So they could very easily fall to 2-6. And at that point, the question becomes, does he even make it through the season? And that's kind of shocking when Miami was starting the season as a real favorite, maybe not a favorite, but one of the two favorites, I guess, in the Coastal Division. And I guess it just goes to show you how quickly things can change, and maybe how knee-jerk reaction some athletic departments have. I don't want to defend Manny Diaz too much, but he had Miami playing well last year, and they ended on a sour note, and that, I guess, is carried over into this season. But I don't think they should give up on him yet. But to answer your question, I think his seat is really, really warm, and he's going to have to – I think he might have to win one of these next two games and get an upset in order to save his job.
Dave, finally, folks obviously read you on Southern Pigskin. I know you have a new book out. Tell people about that and where they can find out more information.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. It's called The Road of Reciprocity. It's a fiction book about a World War II U.S. dispatch rider that finds out his brothers may be wounded behind enemy lines. Came out last Saturday. It's available on Amazon.com. I just searched The Road of Reciprocity. It's in hardcover and Kindle right now. The paperback will be coming out in early November. And I'd love to hear feedback from readers or fans. And if you want a signed copy from me, I'll eventually be sending out those. Email me for one of those. My email, holcombmdavid@gmail.com.
And again, check that out. Dave Holcomb, our guest here on 3 and Out. Dave, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Dave Holcomb joining us here in an interesting weekend in the ACC upcoming. We've got more to come here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, and on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Great to be here with you on this Friday. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, glad you are with us. Thanks for making us a part of your day. And I know Georgia, Florida coming up, and Ben always enjoys talking back and forth with the fans. Ben, now a new way for fans to get directly to you. Tell us about that.
Yes, so it is finally happening for all the fans. I know you were saying to yourself, I wish I could talk trash to Ben. Ben got a big face. He think he know everything. So now it has happened. I have partnered with this company called Subtext, and I have a number that you can actually text. So get your pens ready. Get everything ready. It is, you can text me at 850-8484-BEN. That's 850-8484-BEN. Now, the thing about Subtext is it's a chance for me to just talk about all things sports. It's when sports and real life collide. Nothing is off limits. Well, at least I say nothing is off limits. If one of y'all say something ridiculous and I got to say something to you about it. But it's a chance for me to just, kind of build my own team. I've always been a part of teams that was already orchestrated. This is my chance to build my own team. 84 Reasons with Ben Troop. Text me at 850-8484-BEN, and nothing is off limits. Georgia, Florida, Georgia, whatever you want to call it. Baseball fans, basketball fans, it's where sports and life collide. We're going to have some fun. But once again, the number is 850-8484-BEN. And hey, man, let's get what's on your mind off your mind. And listen, if some of y'all want to talk trash about BJ and Kevin, let me know. I'm going to tell them what you said. But now make sure I holler, man. But yeah, partner with this company called Subtext. Looking forward to you being a part of this, this community of mine. And let's see how far we can take this thing.
2 a.m. Send them off.
Oh,
those are the best ones. Ben will respond to you.
I will say this. I mean, it never ever.
No, tweet at Ben and say, Ben, are you not watching the Braves game? Good. Don't.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Listen, I mean, I gotta go back to my Twitter sphere. I mean, I didn't watch the other day, and I didn't watch last night, and we lost. So the curse is over. Even though it's the only reason why I caught the pass in 2002 because of the Georgia curse. But no, I think it's always fun to be able to have fan interaction or just people to people interaction. And Kevin, I mean, some of us who don't like to talk, we do like to text. You will get a response from a text. You can call somebody, they won't pick up, and you can text them. They're like, "What's up? I just called you. I don't feel like talking." So listen. So let's text. Let's text. It's subtext. Like I said, 850-8484-BEN. Get what's on your mind off your mind with sports and real life collide. And like I said, I mean, if y'all want to know how weird BJ Bennett really is, just text me, and I will let you know after I forward it to him because. And I might give you BJ Ben a real phone number if y'all text me at 850-8484-BEN. Just saying.
You call him personally and tell him everything that's wrong with him.
That would be the greatest. You know what? BJ not gonna pick up because we can't get BJ to pick up for us. So he sure as hell ain't finna pick up for y'all. So we'll see what happens with that.
You can say, is this the best or the greatest text you've ever received? At the end of the day, let him go off of that.
Or are you telling him?
Yeah. Yes. Are you asking me? Are you telling me that is true? That would be good. Like even if they're like auto BJ responses to that. Yeah, come on, you already know what I'm talking about.
Listen. Y'all text me so y'all can tell Kevin that triple chocolate really exists.
It doesn't exist. You can claim it just like the curse doesn't exist. Triple, double chocolate. No.
Listen, two things that Kevin don't exist: triple chocolate and boneless chicken wings. That's a chicken. That's a chicken strip. That is not a chicken wing.
I will believe triple chocolate exists when I get triple strawberry and triple vanilla and all that kind of stuff going on. Doesn't matter. We'll come back. Take three right around the corner here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you back here. Hour 2 of 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. A lot to get to here on the show. We'll hear from Mike Norvell this hour. Also, Lawton Swan in the final hour of the program and our picks for the college football weekend. Sure to go wrong. So some games to pick coming up in the final hour of the program. But first, let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, BJ and Ben, NBA back in the last couple of days, opening night, and several teams, I think the Hawks had their opening night last night. Take one is Trae Young, a top 15 player in the NBA.
Yes, and to save the audience, 3 or 4 minutes of me stammering through names, we did this in the show meeting, and I think he is definitely top 15 based on what he did last season, last postseason. Top 10, maybe not quite there yet. Of course, you still have superstars all over the place in the NBA, but I think Trae has played himself into that conversation. You have stars, you have superstars, and I think Trae Young is a superstar. Hawks look great, by the way, in their opening win over Dallas, but top 15, yes, I am very comfortable saying that. I feel like that is fair for Trae Young.
Yes, he is the top 15, BJ, and this is why. The same thing I say when it comes to Hall of Famers. If you got to hesitate, they're not a Hall of Famer. If you have to hesitate when answers about Trae Young, he is the top 15 player. There aren't a lot of superstars in the NBA, right? You got Giannis, you got LeBron, you got AD, you got Kawhi, you got Dame Dollars, you got a lot of guys. Who brought out the best in the Bucks last year? That would be Trae Young. And the thing is, I know you got Luka Doncic. Okay, I know we traded for Luka. I know you traded Luka to get Trae. Who got the max contract first? That would be Trae. Who's on the better team? I don't know if the cast of characters around Trae is better than those around Luka, but I do know who make their team better. So yes, Trae Young is the top 15 talent. You can tweet me, biscuits and gravy. We can talk about it.
You left out the underscore in there. They won't get me with that Twitter handle. Apparently, I will get to that later. I'll get to that coming up after take 3. Take 2, game 6 tonight between Houston, the Astros, and the Boston Red Sox. Which team do you feel has the better offense?
Yeah, and I think my first visceral reaction was Houston, but you go and look at the production, the stats here in the postseason. Boston has 22 home runs in the postseason. The next closest team is the Dodgers with 14. So Boston has been on just an offensive tear here in the postseason, and they're second in batting average at 285 behind only the White Sox, who got eliminated right away. So Boston offensively, the batting average is higher than what Houston has. The home run numbers are almost double what Houston has. I think that, Martinez and Bogarts and Hernandez, this is a really, really good balanced lineup. I know you have maybe bigger names with Houston, but the way they're playing right now, I will take the Red Sox.
This goes back to that. Who would you rather the Braves play? In the NLCS, or what, the Dodgers or the? Both of these offenses are incredible. You talk about Boston and freaking Houston. Altuve and company, BJ can match with the best of them. And sometimes BJ numbers can be deceiving. I know you're giving me, I know you're a stats guy. We talking about what Boston is doing. Think about Houston, and when they get the match, it gets ugly, and it stays ugly for the entire game. I know, we don't know if Houston is having help when it comes to knowing what pitches, is coming. But maybe we've moved on from there. But give me Houston. I just think that Altuve and his brother will just find a way to go out there and match just a little bit better than the Red Sox.
Yeah, I think the Astros scare me more than the Red Sox. I'm not saying the Red Sox aren't better, but from that standpoint, I would be a little bit more worrisome of the Astros. And if they're still cheating and getting caught in this day and age, really? How ridiculous would you have to be in that Houston organization to still be doing something like that? But yeah, if it's me and you get to pick, I think I'd rather play the Red Sox, although the Astros with a chance to close it out tonight in this game 6. Game 7 will be tomorrow if Boston comes back and wins tonight to even the series. All right, moving on. Take 3. Which top 10 team do you think of as more of a legitimate contender, Michigan or Michigan State? Both are undefeated at the moment. Of course, they still got a lot of big games in the Big Ten, but who do you kind of look as more of a legitimate contender at this point?
And I believe they play next Saturday in East Lansing. Both of these teams have backloaded schedules, right? Michigan and Michigan State play Saturday, and then I'm looking at Michigan's schedule here. After Michigan State in mid-November, they have at Penn State, and then at the end of the month, they of course have Ohio State. And you look at Michigan State's schedule, they have Michigan coming up, then they have Purdue. We'll see if they're still ranked, and then they finish the season with Ohio State and Penn State. So you don't necessarily know if those two teams will be there at the end, but I trust Michigan State more. I think Michigan State, with the running game they have, Kenneth Walker right now leads the nation in rushing. He has 997 yards and 9 touchdowns, 3 yards short of 1,000 through his 7th game. He's averaging almost 150 yards per game. He's incredible. I mean, he's got to be right there in the Heisman Trophy conversation. I think Michigan State has had, a close game or two, but for the most part, a little more consistent. And I understand Miami without De'Aaron King is not the same team, but back when Miami was still in the national polls in mid-September, Michigan State went to Miami and beat the Hurricanes 38 to 17. 38 to 17 on the road. We've seen this offense score 42, 38 a couple of times, 48, 31. This offense has been really good with Kenneth Walker. Mel Tucker, obviously one of the hot names in coaching right now with what he's done with the Spartans, but we'll learn a lot more about both teams next Saturday. But for right now, I will take Michigan State.
BJ, I know we try to stay away from the eye test and recency bias or past accomplishments, but I'm gonna go with Michigan State because the thing about Mel Tucker was people was thinking that him having I don't even know if he put his coat down at Colorado before he even took the job at Michigan State, but doing a really, really good job at Michigan State, and they're really going out there playing really, really solid football. Michigan Beach I always get called, is it just hype? I mean, Michigan get that Dallas Cowboy type hype, don't they? My goodness, they got the brand equity, but I just don't see it. Michigan is not going to beat Ohio State. It is not in Harbaugh's contract. He is not allowed to beat Ohio State. But for me, it's Michigan State because new coach. Same result when you talk about what they want to do. They're going to play. They're going to play that ground and pound on offense. They're going to try to play that opportunistic type defense. So for me, give me Michigan State. Give me that way. What is it? Go green. Give me that go green for me. I'm not dealing with go blue ever in life.
But you know what's interesting, Kevin, is I think a lot of people were here, and you mentioned Michigan with the hype. I think a lot of people think about Michigan State and go, yeah, they probably aren't in the conversation for being a national contender. They've made the playoff. And granted, it didn't go well against Alabama in the semifinal, but you're talking about what, less than a dozen teams that have made the college football playoff, and Michigan State is one of those teams. So I think more of a recent history of national contention than we realize when we think about Michigan State. And I'm with you, and maybe it's just because we've been burned a couple of times, but I'm a little hesitant to buy into Michigan as a national contender just because we have not seen that prove true late in the season yet. So I'm going with Michigan State.
Yeah, both of them I think still have to play Penn State, and both of them still have to play Ohio State. So I don't know if either one of them are necessarily a big contender, but yeah, until I kind of see Michigan do it against Ohio State or someone like that, then I'll be like, okay, I think they're there because they've lost so many in a row. Michigan State, if I had to give it to somebody, I agree, BJ. I would kind of lean that direction with you there to Michigan State, and certainly can run the football. It could be an interesting game there, as you said, in East Lansing in a week and a little bit over a week plus.
And Mel Tucker, right? We've seen his name, and I mean, who knows where we are with this, but we've seen his name mentioned as a possible candidate for the LSU job. I think that would be a great hire. We'll have to wait and see how all that plays out, but it's interesting that as some of these short lists start coming out for jobs that aren't even open in some cases, but I think Mel Tucker's been mentioned as one of those top candidates potentially for the job at LSU.
That's Take Three. We do it each and every day here at this time. Ben, right before we came on, tried to hit me with a little bit of so apparently someone sent him a message at the 850-8484 Ben. It said that what did he say? Try to get me to rep Atlanta United.
He said, quote, Kevin needs to start repping Atlanta United. My homeboy Kent, shout out to Kent. Kent said, we need Kevin to start repping Atlanta United because he says he only hear you talk about the Braves, and obviously we were talking about Trigger Trey. And he was like, what about Atlanta United? I said, Kevin, Kevin say his jersey got caught up in the mail.
Well, here's what I want to know, Ben. I mean, and first off, great point. Shout out to Atlanta United. But did you have to request the Tallahassee area code? Is that how that worked?
Well, I mean, people was like, just give me Eric Cole, no one cares. And, and then they just gave me A50. When I first heard the A50, I was like, A50. I barely get in here. I tell BJ, I say, BJ said, what's the number? I go, A50. He go, oh. For those of you who don't know, BJ loves the A50, and the whole thing about, no. I said, give me a number I can't remember. They decided with the A50 thing, BJ, I had, because if it was up to me, I would have not have picked. I said, give me Eric Cole, no one cares. So they gave me A50, and that's what they gave me, and that's what I'm dealing with. So yes, once again, holla at your boy Subtext 850-8484-BEN, and make sure, and if you are an Atlanta United fan, Kevin Thomas told me to tell you he looks forward to seeing you in Mercedes-Benz Dome very, very soon.
For a Falcons game?
I will say this. When I was doing the Celebration Bowl not too many years ago, and I walking away from the stadium, I'm looking at this big old. I said, "What is that?" And I finally said, "That's a soccer ball." Because I'm like, what? I'm like, what a big Falcon at? And I'm like, what is that big? I said, "That's a big old gigantic like golf ball." That's a soccer. Okay, got it. Atlanta United. It was a soccer ball. Got it. And BJ hasn't gone to an Atlanta United game yet, and I know BJ is just daring to go.
He wants to go very badly.
I'm waiting so Kevin and I can go together. Me and Kevin are gonna make it a special trip.
Okay, here it is. Falcons win the Super Bowl. Braves win the Super Bowl. Braves win the World Series. I'm just all over. Braves win the World Series. Kevin has to go to Atlanta United again. That should be. He can.
Do I get to hit the big giant nail?
Yes, we're gonna have to find a way. Listen, this was.
Can I hit is it a nail or a spike? What is it?
Listen, 2022. Here it is. If the Braves win the World Series, Kevin's going to Atlanta United game, and I got to race Mr. Freeze. I got to race him. But
it's all going to go very badly at the end of the day, regardless. But if I get to hit this, is it a spike or a nail? What is it?
Yeah, it's the pregame. Yeah, spike. Yeah.
Maybe if I get to do that, I might go, and then I'll be like Ben at a Florida game. I'll be in the parking lot.
I'm sure you're very high on the list to be honored pregame. I'm sure you're right up there.
I got to be 1B probably. I'm right there, ready to make the cut. We got more to come here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Falcons in South Florida this weekend. How bad do the Falcons need to win? We'll get to that next here on 3 and Out. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Falcons in Miami. Just getting back from London. You lost to the Jaguars, Miami. So is this a must-win for Atlanta to try to bump off the Dolphins this weekend?
Yes. I mean, the Dolphins are really struggling. And like you said, the Jaguars had lost 20 straight games. 20 straight games. And they were able to beat Miami. You want Atlanta to get back to 500. I don't know what the expectations are, if there's a consensus on expectations for the Falcons right now. I think you're taking it kind of week by week. But you do feel like games like this are obvious, easy must-wins. And I say easy, relatively speaking, within the context of the NFL. And, in the National Football League, anything goes, but you aren't going to have a better matchup than this. And not only is Miami 1-5, they've lost 5 games in a row. So they're on that Jacksonville trajectory from last year where you win the first game, everybody's looking around going, okay, and then you just lose from there on out. So I think for a franchise with new leadership where you're still looking probably for some early validation, some early affirmation, you're kind of settling in, trying to find your rhythm. You've probably not realized your full potential yet. You got to win this one. You have to win this one. Miami's bad, Ben.
Miami's bad, BJ. When we were talking about the Falcons, said, listen, man, they got to get this one. Like, my goodness. I really don't know what's going on right now in Miami outside of the fact that, I know that Coach Flores trying to come out and say Tua's our guy. That's not true. They're going to try to get Deshaun Watson. But no, Atlanta's trying to build some momentum. I mean, how much did Kyle Pitts get to go out there and really show what he can do, when really those guys are getting some guys back healthy. But if you are, if you think about Arthur Smith, look, man, you got to try to build some momentum when you got bad teams. You get beat by better teams. And I'm sorry, there ain't too many teams in the league. Well, there are teams in the league worse than Atlanta, and Miami just happens to be one of them. So, yes, Atlanta got to go out there and take care of business. You don't want to lose to a 1-5 team right now because that doesn't give you any hope moving forward because we know that this schedule is only going to get rougher down the stretch, and Atlanta's coming off, big-time win. I don't like these overseas wins, but you will take them. They count the same. Had to fly a long way to get it, but you did get it. So, yes, got to take care of a team in Miami that I don't know what's going on with Coach Flores right now. This Miami team, man, I mean, they tried to build through the draft. Hasn't really been their year. Tua can't stay healthy. You got the better quarterback. You got the better role players. You got the better team. Atlanta should come out with a dub.
But here's why I say this too, Kevin, because when you look at Atlanta and kind of the direction of the organization, and of course you just made a coaching change, so the previous year is not going to be a showcase stretch for you, but it's been almost one full calendar year since the Falcons have had a winning streak. And for an organization that not that long ago was, I hate to bring it, but was on the verge of a Super Bowl title and was a postseason regular with Matt Ryan, you're talking about almost a calendar year since you've won back-to-back games. You have to go back to last season, a win over Denver the first week of November and a win over Carolina the last weekend of October since you've won back-to-back games. Since that point, you went 1-6 down the stretch to finish last season. And then entering this season, you're 2-3. You opened up with 2 losses. You barely got one against New York. And then you lost to Washington. So in crazy fashion. Now, you did beat New York. You've had a bye week, but coming off of a bye week against maybe the worst team in the NFL, this is just, if you don't win this, there's no excuse. And I think we're all still waiting and seeing before kind of issuing a detailed statement in terms of what we think of the Arthur Smith era. But you haven't had a streak in nearly a year. You have to get this done.
Ooh. I mean, BJ, we'll see. I mean, I think sometimes people be thinking that new coach, a new way of going about doing things. And you got a lot of guys on the team that's been there and that was a part of they went from a winning culture to a loser culture very, very quickly in Atlanta. Arthur Smith inherited, some guys that could definitely go out there and get it done. But you can't, you got to measure yourself against bad teams. Bad teams stay bad teams because better teams beat them all the time. It's been a long time since Miami had something to ride home about, but Matty Ice is a former MVP of the league. Been to a Super Bowl. You added Kyle Pitts. Gage and those guys supposed to be back. Really, those guys supposed to be back. Come on, Deion Jones. Come on, Grady Jarrett. Come on, Dante Fowler Jr. Please don't get exposed by a 1-5 team because nothing says more about you when you're trying to find some momentum than to get exposed by a team that the game is probably over before it even begins. And I think Deshaun Watson is going to be a Miami Dolphin. I don't care what anybody says. You know who I trust in this life? Kevin Thomas. You know who I don't trust? Head coaches, GMs, owners. I cannot trust these people, BJ. All I'm saying is, BJ, Jimbo Fisher. Did he ever tell DeAndre Francois when he was leaving? Nope. Just took his Christmas tree and left it on the front lawn and got to the airport. So don't trust them coaches. Don't trust them GMs. Don't trust them owners. They all stick together.
And again, if you're the Falcons, look, got to go beat a team while they're down. I mean, I know you could say, well, you're a bad team or not a great team, but this is an opportunity, even on the road, to go beat a Miami team that's lost 5 in a row. And might Miami at some point, especially if, as you said, Ben, they don't like the direction it's going with Brian Flores, might they be the 2021 Jaguars where you win the first one and then you're playing for that draft pick?
Are you trying to say the Jaguars are trendsetters that everybody
I'm saying I'm saying if you are Brian Flores and right now you got to go to your fan base and your ownership and go, yeah, we lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, huh?
So
we lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, are they better this year? I saw they got Trevor. Yeah. Well, they had lost 20 games in a row, more than a season's worth of games, and they beat us.
You know you bad.
So you feel good about the direction we're going?
You know you bad when the Jags tell you bad. Well, y'all bad. Jesus, like what's wrong with y'all, bro? BJ said, "Are they trying to trendsetter?" That's not the type of trend you.
Yeah, you're the negative trendsetter.
You know, I got better for my rookie year. My second year, we went from 4 wins to 5 wins. We was balling out of control. No. The worst place to be is if all you do is play football and you won 1 game in the calendar year, 1. Hey, fellas, we can build all this, but we beat the Dolphins. Well,
that's building.
I mean, I still think on the field there's some uncertainties to a certain extent. I mean, I think you've had some moments where the pass rush has been better. I know Dante Fowler has a couple of sacks, and look, you'll take that if you can build on that. I think the running game is still a little bit of a mystery, and some of that may be due to just limitations at the line of scrimmage with your offensive line. Jalen Mayfield, adjusting as a rookie, other guys. But I think you have Mike Davis with maybe 15 or 20 more carries than Cordero Patterson, who's been great as a playmaker. I mean, he's done it all over the field. But kind of what's your overall identity? And this should be a game where you are able to set the tone. What does that mean if you're Atlanta?
I mean, Ben, have you seen more Green Bay Packers of Atlanta offense and less Tennessee Titans in terms of stylists? I don't mean the same, but you have a wide receiver playing running back, and that is a guy that you are featuring. And I think when Arthur Smith got hired, you're like, oh man, we're gonna make it real simple on Matt Ryan. We're gonna block, and we're gonna give him a bruising running back, and Matt Ryan doesn't need to sit back there and throw it 40 times. And seemingly the opposite has happened, and you've turned more into the 2018, 2019 Green Bay Packers where, hey, we got a guy that can run the ball, but we're going to let our quarterback just whip it everywhere and see what happens.
Yeah, Arthur Smith was very, very spoiled when you had a guy like Derrick Henry up there when he was an OC with the Titans. And every time the Titans play well, they just get a ball to 22. Well, 22 has turned to 84. 84 just happens to play receiver, but he also gets more carries than Mike Davis. I don't know if that's going to be a winning recipe. Now, I will say Cordell Patterson put on a show not too many games ago when he was, but the problem was he was catching the ball. He had 3 receiver touchdowns. So what is he? Well, he's a running back and a receiver. Coming out of training camp, it's Mike Davis this, Mike Davis that. Mike Davis get to the game, and they tell Mike Davis, hey, tap Cordell and get him in the game. So we'll see, but whenever you got guys playing out of position in the NFL, while it can work in spurts, it's not going to work to help you win games consistently. But, hey, Cordell Patterson, hey, man, you pay a man for one thing. He can do other things. The more you can do, the more you're going to play. But I just think that get a ball to running backs who, 5'10", not receivers who are 6'3" with 8'4" on their chest, standing right behind Matty Ice.
Kevin, I think for me, I want to see the offensive line play better. So much starts up front. I know Christian says he watches games at the line of scrimmage. I think this will be a good Sunday to pay attention to the front, not only offensively but defensively against a team that's already out of it. Can you control things from the defensive front? Can you set the tone along the offensive front? I think keep an eye on the line of scrimmage for the Falcons in this game.
Yeah, and again, we'll see if Atlanta can come back and win 2 in a row. After look, I think we know this is a work in progress for Atlanta. I think people said, look, success would be not picking in the top 7 or 8 again, and they got a little work to do to get out of that range, BJ, and they've got the Dolphins coming up this weekend. We still got a lot more to get to here on the show. Our picks sure to go wrong, fellas, as somehow when you go to ESPNcoastal.com, you can check this out. Cody Queen leading the picks. If you can explain to me how exactly that's happening, I would love to hear it.
Rigged? No, I'm just saying. I don't know.
Yes, we are making it so that Cody wins. That's exactly what
Cody is haunting us. It's all good. Okay, keep balling that Cody James Queen.
We love Cody. I'm just
Of
saying,
course. No, I mean, listen,
for a guy that when he first came to us said, look, I don't really follow. I'm a pro football guy. To be leading the picks where you are picking college football game, I'm wondering what his secret is. Christian says, look, he just doesn't overthink it. He just gut. Yep, they win, and that's what he goes with. It's amazing.
Been hanging out with BJ for too long, psycho analyzing everything, breaking down every minute number, and I am losing. I'm gonna just go back to doing how I did when I took tests back in the day. I'm gonna just go with my gut. I didn't do too well on those tests, but I had to trust me.
AB. Just pick
between that thing.
We'll come back. We got more to come. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network, streaming live, ESPNcoastal.com.